Okay, so let's get the recordings going. Okay, everything is set up. Let's go. It's 9 o'clock morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
Let's get this last prep done and we can chat, and then we will have a session next week as well, just for a check-in. So let me just move that all the way to the top. Let me get that out of the way. I'll share this final pack after the session as well. When you have it with all the things that I've added. Okay, let's finish, and then we can talk about other things as well. Okay, so in this one, we're just continuing with some of the chi-square questions that might be coming in the exam. So here they tell us we're finding a 2 by 3. 2 by 3. They give us, I think, well, what is important here, they give us the observed numbers, and in brackets they give us the expected numbers. Okay, so we have the expected numbers. So probably what they want us to work out is something like that, because we've got the observed, we've got the expected. But let's see. The following 2 by 3 contingency table contains observed frequencies and expected from a sample of 364. Calculate the chi-square test statistic required to test the independence of row and column variables. Choose the correct one from the list below. Okay, so what they want you to do is that sum. So we can do it on a calculator. Then you would basically have to do this. Okay, then you would need to do that 6 times and add then all of the things together. So that is one way of getting to it. Let's see if we can't use a different method. Let me, that might be the same number set. Let me just copy that in. Seems like the right number set. What is important in this one is actually, and I will share this data sheet now after the session as well, so that you just have it. So let's make it bigger. We can always. So this data sheet that we have is set up for a bit more. So if you go 4 rows and 4 columns, and how it is set up is that the expected value is already calculated for you. So that you actually don't need to have that. So you will see here in the in the row of the expected, we said it's the total of a column times the total of a row divided by the total. So this piece of the question is already set up for you that you actually don't need to complete it. Okay, so let's clear that part so that we just can put in a new value. So you will see that now has changed and we don't know anything yet. Okay, so put in 55 is the first one. 40 was the next one. 79. 34. 56 and 100. Okay, so just to check, 42.54 is the same, 45.89 is the same, 85.57 is the same, 46.46, 50.11, 93.43. So with our calculation, we also got to the right answer. So then what is in this section? So what is in this section is the calculation that I've written down on. So it is that minus that to the power of 2 divided by the expected. So if you remember from, so we said it's that minus that to the power of 2 divided by the expected. Okay, so that is being worked out there. We can just make that also just doesn't need to be so many 4 decimals so that it's not so many decimals. So what you would have done if you didn't use Excel is exactly the same. You would have said that minus that to the power of 2 divided by that, and you would have gotten that. And then you needed to do it for all 6 of them. You would have gotten the same answer. It would have just taken a bit longer, and then we worked out the t-stat by, and this was just a sum of those. So again, if we get 2 extra variables in there, let's make this complete. If we get 2 extra variables in there, then it is set up to include that. So again, we can just make it 100% complete. The problem is when if there is none, those goes to, and you will just need to remember that if there is more variables in, you just need to, in the end, make sure that you drag these to fill up the whole box for you. Okay, because otherwise with the divided by 0, it doesn't work. I just want to check something, and this is just, there's supposed to be chi-squared test also. So if you had, that's a beauty of Excel. Okay, so what I've now calculated there was the p-value. Okay, so I just want to see if I can get the formula that actually does the return thing. What we did. That the one. I think that was the one that we did. Um, I'll check and I'll add a formula for you as well. But if I now ask for the p-value, it is actually also calculated for you. Because if I look at that sample size, the chances that we will have 364 somewhere in a table will be very slim. Let's quickly have time, so I'm not. Let's quickly just check in the chi-square to where we right now. You can see in the chi-square that they give us, we're not getting close to those numbers. So just interesting. Okay, so if needed, there is that p-value for you as well. Okay, so again, please use this. So it is option D. So please use this. Will definitely share this again now after the session as well. But definitely it just makes one's life very easier. Um, in the exam, normally they do more 2 by 2, so that it is not so many calculations. So you will not in the exam get a 4 by 4 or 3 by 3. That is just, so it's normally a 2 by 2 if it is in the exam. They will also, like in this instance, give you the expected. They will not only give you in the exam the observed, and then you still need to work out the expected, and then still need to work out that they will also not do. So just, you don't need to worry that in that instance it will take long. So definitely not like that. Okay, so we did basically the independent ones. We looked at the degrees of freedom, we looked at expected, and we now looked at this. If we, and let's quickly, if I set, okay, so let's, because I don't think we've looked at one that, so let's just add so that we can just quickly show so if they told us that we're working with a 4-row, 5-column, and 10% confidence, and we needed to work out we needed to work out the critical value from the table. Yes, so we need to work out the critical value. So not the t-stat, because for that we need other information, but we need to work out the critical value. So the things that we will need is degrees of freedom. So for degrees of freedom, it is row minus 1, column minus 1. So for degrees of freedom, 4 minus 1. So that is 3 times 4. It's 12. So actually, in this one, we could have gone degrees of freedom would have been 3, so it's 2. So here, degrees of freedom would have been 2. So we could have actually, they've given us a percentage, look at the table. Okay, so degrees of freedom is 12. We said 10%, so let's go to the table. You can see we've done a lot in prep here, but degrees of freedom was 12. Okay, and the alpha was 10. So remember, so just check again, please. So that at the top is cumulative probabilities, and these ones is for alpha. Okay, so just that's why I highlighted the 10 there and the 10 there, because you will get two different answers. So just remember that is for alpha that we are getting. The alpha is 10 or 0.1. So 12 and 10. So in this instance, 12 and 10, the degrees of freedom, 12 with 10 would have been 18.549. So if we needed to work out the critical value, it would have been 18.549. Okay, so we didn't do one now for the prep, so I just wanted to include that. So they can give you as little as that information, because then you can do the degrees of freedom, you have the 10%, and then you can get the critical value from that. So just be careful, because sometimes they do this, and then there's an option that says you don't have enough information or anything or something like that. But you can just with this little information get to the critical value. Okay, let's go into chapter 11. So chapter 11 on regression, I would, from previous exams, it's nearly you will get one definition question on it and one practical question. So just be prepared for something like this that they ask in a definition kind of. So look at your definitions of R and R on what is independent and what is dependent in regression space. So I think that is just important from a definition point of view. Okay, so let's go through these and see what they're asking us. Which one of the following statements is incorrect about some concepts of simple linear regression? Okay, so a correlation coefficient of 0.1 indicate a weak positive linear relationship between variables. Okay, so your correlation coefficient runs between -1 to 1. So firstly, 0.1, it is positive because it is closer to 0 than 1, it is weak. Okay, so if it was something like 0.5, 0.6, then it would have been a strong positive relationship. But just because that is closer to 0 than to 1, it is a weak relationship, but it still is a positive relationship because it's not negative in front. If there was a negative sign in front, so if it was minus 0.1, it would have just read a correlation coefficient of 0 minus 0.1 indicate a weak negative linear relationship. Okay, so the sign just makes it that it is then negative. Okay, so if it was negative 0.9, it would have been a strong negative linear relationship. Okay, so that one is correct. The least square method estimates, okay, the least square method estimates the regression equation by minimizing the error sum of squares. Okay, so this is somewhere in the book. It is just a definition that you need to know. This goes on later on to maximize maximum estimation and those kind of things. So don't really worry about the rest of this, but it is in the book. So this is just a definition. So the least square methods, what it does, it is it minimizes the errors sum of squares. Okay, and we'll get to example where we will look at that in the next one, how it minimizes, but let's not worry about it yet. Correlation coefficient always takes on values between 0 and 1. Okay, that is wrong. So your R, and that is your correlation coefficient, is always between -1 and 1. Your R square is between 0 and 1. Okay, so coefficient of determination is always between 0 and 1. So this correlation coefficient 1 is definitely the incorrect one. The coefficient of determination can be interpreted as a percentage of the total sum of squares that can be explained using the estimated regression equation. Correct. Again, please don't try to merely understand this like in B. It is part of the definitions. So basically what it does, because it's for R square, it just makes sure that you can interpret it as that percentage explains how good the data is or how bad the data is. Okay, so again, if we used the 0.1 and we multiplied it or took the power that it will be very weak. So it will be a very bad, nearly explained percentage of the work. So um, again, definition, you have it now here. So if I ask it the same with B, that's not something that you need to worry about. Just have this nearly as a explanation of that. You don't need to go into any of those details of those two questions. Then the last one, the slope and the intercept of the estimated regression equation are estimated using the least square, and that again is true. Okay, so let me check if I think in this way showed it, because most of it would have been. I want to see if I added those formulas in this one. Else, okay, so there's a bit of it. Here's some of the. So, and this is now where you would have in your, depending on which calculator you use, you can see calculator that they're speaking about here. There you would have put in your two data sets. They give you the way to do it. You would have been able to calculate the means, the standard deviations, the sums of. So everything that you would have needed to calculate, you would be able to do with this calculator. But again, we have Excel to do that. So that's why, again, I don't see any issue using Excel. So you've even got it for some of the other sample means for other distributions as well. So that's why I don't have the issue with you guys, and that's why they don't have the issue with you guys using Excel, because the calculator would have been able to do the same thing. So if you have this calculator, I think it's the Sharp, one of the Sharp calculators. Let's quickly just check. So it's at the end of your study guide. Okay, so there's the one if it's cashew that you're using, and there's the explanation if you use the Sharp. So so if you have any of those two calculators, anything that you would need for this this exam is actually in here from about page 2010 in your study guides. Okay, so but let's go to the next one. So what I'm gonna do with this, and this one you don't, because this was also the first time I saw something asked like this. Okay, so how I would do a question like this is I would, on a piece of paper, just, so that's y, that is x. So I would just roughly say, okay, we're going somewhere between 23 versus 30. So I would use that as 0, that nearly as 10, 20, and 30. So I would say somewhere here is a 23, the same 10, 20, 30, somewhere here is a 25. So that is one of my first numbers. Then I would pick another one that's my highest. So there's okay, two ones, that is 32 and 31. So X is 32, 31. Okay, so by means of those two already, let's look at the data set. So here they told us that there's a X that is 40. Let's just go through. There's no X that is 40, so it's not that one. Here again, X that is 40. I don't see a X that is 40, so it's not that one. Here someone is close to 50. Definitely not that one. Again, 40 and something over 60. Geez, okay, also not that one. Okay, so here we've got one. So we basically sit with that one and that one. Okay, so then if we look at the data, we can, let's just put the last point in as well. So that was the first point, that was the second point, and the fifth point. So let's put in another point 30, 30, that is nearly close to that one. There nearly you see 2 points close to one another. The 50, 50, let's check on this one. So there's so nothing about this one goes above 15. Okay, so you can see nothing is more than 20 on this plot. Let's look at all of that is above 20. So that one would have also actually been wrong. So the only one that it could have been is option A. Okay, but now the other, so we've done that. Now it's like option A. Then oops, that is actually referring to plot D. So now we need to, another one is to look at where is plot A, and that is actually option E. Okay, what is also in Excel is we've created one that you can actually put in the data. Let's just insert you basically can input the data and it gives you a diagram. I think we can add to that to see if I can add okay. So there is the trend line added as well, and then you can see it's very similar to plot A. Okay, so it is also in Excel this way, but if you didn't want to use Excel, you can also, I just tried to do it and see which ones actually make sense and which ones does not make sense. So you could see out of just eliminating, you could have actually eliminated all of them, and it's only the last one, dot A, that is possible. Okay, so you might get something like this. This came from one of last year's assignment papers where it was the first time I've actually seen it in the exam or in an assignment. I have not seen it any time before that they actually give you the plots. So it might be that this is in the exam because it is such a new way of asking that you really can look at the data. So just be really looking out for that. I don't know if in your last assignment was actually also a plot like that given. Okay, then the last one. So here they give you the data, and then they ask you those questions around the data. So let me just yes, there's a question. You can ask, is it it? I see it just again. So please ask. Sound is not coming through unless it's just on my side. So if you can just try again.
So
Yes.
the previous one, which answer it is?
Did anybody pick that up? What you asked?
John, I think he's asking the previous question. What was the answer? I think that's what.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he's asking that.
Okay, cool. So the answer was actually option E, scatter plot A. So please be very careful when you answer. I think it was nearly the same in other scatter plots that you did in study unit 3 and 2 and things. The numbers doesn't always correspond to what is in the answer set. So option E, scatter plot A, was the correct one. Okay, so just be very careful because in the exam, I would have probably chosen A and not even have read what is under it, because this is probably one of your last questions, and you then done with your exam. So just be please very careful. I probably would have guessed went to A because that was like option A. But look at what they say and where the answer is, please. Okay, so let's go to this question 7 or slide 70. And the reason why I included this is in your assignments, you got a lot of information in some of these questions. So they would have given you a lot of this to sometimes calculate the last two. Here they only give you the data. So there is no ways you can do this question without your calculator or without Excel. So there is just no other way. So we will need to use one of those two for this question. And I think that is just important because I know there was a lot of questions around, but can we use Excel? Can't we use Excel? But let's be honest, if you get this, you can't do anything else. Otherwise, you must be very good in remembering certain things. Okay, so let me just see where did we? Okay, so here is the one that we're going to use. Okay, so all of that is empty. So I'm gonna use this one. Very important is another thing to look out for is the X and the Y. It might be, I've seen it before, that in the exam they switch the two around, that they give you the Y numbers first and then the X's. So just be very careful when looking at it, that you make sure that it is X is first numbers that you put in, and the Y's are the second numbers that you put in. Because if you swap it around, basically a lot of the things will still look right, but it will basically just give you, so the sum of the X's would have now become the sum of the Y's. So option 3 might still be correct, but option 1 and 2 might be then Y's. These two will just swap around, that when you get your slope, and so it has impact on your answers that then might look correct, if I put it in a different way. So let's do this, and please check that I don't put in, I know it's very small. I will make it a bit bigger now as well. So let's just make it a bit bigger. Okay, so what we have here is the sum. So that's the sum of the X's. That's the sum of, let's get the bright color. That's the sum of the Y's. Okay, so in here, they've asked us the sum of the X's, 113. So you could have, in the exam, just added all of those together, and that would have given you, so it's just a sum of all of those. So at least we know that is, see, and there you see me again. So we know that one is correct. So we're looking for incorrect one. So we know that one is correct. So that one is not incorrect. So we can take that out. Okay, so let's look at what else do they give us. So they ask us to work out what is the sum of the X's minus the mean, and then you take the to the power of 2. Okay, so let's work that out, but we first need to, I just want to see if somewhere the mean has been calculated here. So I am going to include here calculation for the mean. Okay, so the mean is just, and remember what's the mean? the sum divided by your sample size. So we've got the mean as 11.3. So in this calculation here, so let me just see why was, okay, so there the mean was calculated. So that is also fine. It was, so I didn't see it there. So there's the mean calculated. You can see I haven't used this in quite some time. Okay, so there's the mean. Let's just make it. Okay, so what you will see is included in here is if I ask you other things. So if I ask you, and let me, so if I ask you that, if I ask you that, if I ask you that, so that is all being calculated in here. So the sum of the x to the power of 2, there it is. So the sum of y to the power of 2, there it is. If you needed to say x, y, and the sum of it, there it is. So in here is things that for now, in this question, we did not use, but it might be that they ask that in a different set. So we have the x squared or x to the power of 2, y to the power of 2, and the xy is in here for you as well to look at if needed. Then this part where we set x minus the mean, so x minus the mean. So what we've done here is just to say that's x, that's the mean, we minus it. It will always be equal to 0. So if you do the sum, and that might be one that would try to catch you out, if you do the sum, the mean of the sum, or the sum of the mean will always be 0. The same with the y's. The sum of the means will always be 0. Okay, so that's two of the things that is quite interesting. We haven't seen it in any questions, but the sum of x minus the mean always 0, and the sum of y minus the y mean always 0. It is when you take it to the power of 2 that it will not be 0. So for this one, it was xi minus x, so we've done it here. So it is basically that to a power of 2. That answer is 28.1. Here's also the if you need to. So you will see in this part of the spreadsheet is nearly all the other things that might have been asked. So it's a lot of those that we've just put into a nicer format. So if any of these weird things are being asked, it is here for you. So definitely x minus the mean to the power of 2, the sum of that is 28.1. So we know that the second one is correct. So let's just see. So the second one is correct, so it's not incorrect. Okay, then let's go to the third one. So xi minus x times yi minus, so here we've done the calculation, 511 again, option 3, 511 is correct. Correct. Option 3, correct, so it's not wrong. So basically, we're between the slope and the intercept. Between the slope and the intercept. Okay, so for that, we have calculated it here. So basically, the slope and the intercept. So as you will see, what has been used. So this is again, Lynn, I'll be with you now. You can see there the whole formula is added for you on how to calculate B1, which is the slope, and the formula has been included here and here so that you can see how to calculate B0. So the slope of B1 is 18.19. So B1, 18.19. So 5 is correct. 5 is correct. 5 is, so that one would be the incorrect one. So let's just check why. They said 6.91 and we calculated it as minus 1,49. So the incorrect one would have been of I4, so 4, but in this instance, it is option C. Okay. Lynn, yes, you had that question.
Oh, thanks. So just quick one. So option 3, if we didn't use Excel, that would be a very tedious calculation, right, in a calculator.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because the others are standard built in Excel. That one is not standard built into Excel at all. Because you don't need it anywhere nearly for another calc. So that, yes. So if you didn't use Excel, that would have been a massive exercise. Because, and again, so if you look at, so you would have needed to work out that by hand. So you would have needed that information already. So you would have needed to write that down or got it out of your calculator so that you can use it there. So that's why for this question, you will need Excel. What they could have done, which I was surprised that they didn't, was to include some of these. So if I included some of these pre but then it's nearly directly giving you the answer. So it might have, see, and like you say, it's not that, especially that option 3. The other ones you would have been able to use this. But so if I've given you in the exam all of these formulas with the answers, then it's easy still to get the mean, to get that, to get the slope, and to get that. But the difficult one is that option 3 one, which we don't have a set formula unless they give it like this straight to you, but then it defeats the purpose of the question. So this one Excel is nearly the only way to do it. What my suggestion with a question like this is that I would normally, so even, and that's unfortunate also, so even just to get to the slope, and the intercept, you need to do a lot of work if you did not have Excel. With calculator, those were also easy to work out if you have a one that's data, because normally the problem is sitting here. So normally, and again, just a tip. So if this is your last question, you've got 1 minute left. I would guess between the slope and the intercept, because that is normally where it is wrong. So if I added another one here and they've given you the whole formula, then you can also cross-check it with a formula. So that's normally, so if I said, so what is the formula? Is normally mx plus c. So if I've given you the slope and the intercept here in that formula as well, so that you can cross-check if it's correct with what they give you here. That's normally how I would do it, so that I would nearly go straight to the slope and the intercept first, because that's normally where they're gonna make it different, so that the mistake is there. They're seldom going to have it wrong in those ones. So just a tip: if you pressed for time, I would go directly to the slope and the intercept. That's just from what I've seen in all papers, nearly previous papers and exams. That is normally where it is, but that's just a tip. And when you're really pressed for time, if you've got 10 minutes left with this as your last question, I would still go and look at the slope and the intercept first, before I do all the other calculations. And in let me, so what I've done in here is I actually calculated, because there's a slope function. So here, this was used with all the formulas. So if you get only if you get that formula with a number, put it in here, then forget about if you don't get the data. Use just this to get to the slope. But there's a function in Excel that works out the slope by just putting in those two data sets. So that is why these two in blue is the functions in Excel that gives you the intercept, or the intercept and the slope. Yes, this is the correct method with using the formulas. So these ones are actually using the formulas if I give it to you in this format in the exam. But what I've added is also, if I give you that data, you can just use it. So let's say that number have changed to 15, and you can see your slope and that have automatically changed. All the other has also changed because it's referring to that, but then it's an easy one to just use. So please use this sheet nearly if you need to um, to do anything. And that's why for me, I go first to that, because that is nearly, as I've seen in a lot of instances, where in your regression, the mistake is normally with the slope or the intercept. Okay, so that is it. Come to the end. I will set up a session for us on Tuesday. It will probably between 6 and 7. Let's hope ESCOM plays along. But I have now have a system in the week. I've sorted that out, that if there is load shedding, I can still continue. So Tuesday we will have a check-in session between 6 and 7 Tuesday night. If there is questions, if you go through the mock exam, take a picture of a question, send it to me. We can go through it on that Tuesday. That Tuesday, just a check-in to see if you guys are settled in and ready for the exam and last sets of questions. Anything else at the moment that you want to ask? So let me just reiterate open book. I think that we just sort this out for the last time. Open book. Open book means you can have all your notes with you. Okay. So all the things that I have shared, you can use. If you can print it, it's even better. If you can post it all over your room, if you have a place to sit with, do that. Open book means you can use all sources available except a person. And that is why you're doing it on Moodle with I don't even know how to pronounce that word, but basically there's spy cam on you so that they don't pick up another person. So it's not to check anything else. It's just to check that it is you that is doing it. Okay. So that's why you use Moodle. You don't use Iris, so don't worry about Iris. It's not being used. So even if you disenable Iris for your exam, do it so that you don't get confused with it. It is not for stats. That functionality of Iris is built into Moodle. And that's nearly it. Still trying to find out if they're gonna extend that you can write during the day at certain times because of load shedding. Haven't received the answer. Hopefully by Monday we will, so that at least you don't need to worry about load shedding during the time of the exam. Okay, any other questions, guys?
John, for Tuesday session,
Yes.
must we just send you pictures of
Send,
questions that we need?
send pictures to the to our group, because what I've found is that is if you send it to me, probably somebody else had the same issue. So, and sometimes people are too scared to send to the group, but please send to the WhatsApp group. If you're struggling with a question or find something difficult, probably somebody else is as well. So send it to the group. It's just easier for me then to pick up all those and send it once to my email, and then I'll pop it into a presentation that we can go through it. So please do that, and we will cover it.
Okay, cool. Just quick on so on the tables, where would you recommend that we print everything out from? Is everything in the study guide? Are there any tables that we need to source from somewhere else so that we can print out one?
I'll
Hmm?
send you one. So I'll just need to find it somewhere in my archives, but I have a nice one with formulas and tables. It's the thing with the one that I have is sometimes that is being printed off a copy that Unisa had. So sometimes it's very difficult to read some of the numbers. And you will also see even the previous exam papers that I've sent you, sometimes those copies of the tables is pathetic. So I would nearly, for you guys, if you have a study guide as a printed copy, which you probably don't because the post office probably didn't deliver it. If you have it as a printed copy, I would put in markers for me at all the tables. If you have it as a PDF, like what I've got here, what I would do is I would put in text in it. So let's see where. So I would say I would add a text box, and I would say this is my T distribution. So when you can now see all the things that I have highlighted here, but when you only have a few things, or you have a lot of comments that you have made, or you can see where things are highlighted or there is a text message, so that you know, okay, there's my T distribution, where you can see it was one of those comments that I made. So I would nearly, if it's possible, the best is always if this book was in a printed format, but I don't it I don't think any of you will have it in a printed format, because when the post office would have been very, very well run in that instance. But otherwise I will send you what I have, but else the easiest is nearly to make a text box in your PDF, and then it will come up in your comment. You can just see all of mine here is things that I highlighted. So if it was only ones that I tagged, there would be 4 or 5. And then you will see it T distribution or Z, and if you click it, it goes, because then it goes automatically to that section. So that is how I would nearly, if it's possible for you. But I will send what I've got as well. Sometimes it's just not as clear as in the study guide. Okay,
Okay, cool. Thanks.
anything else? Okay, cool, guys. Have a good Saturday. Good luck with the prep of the exam. I know you guys are writing other stuff as well. So just good luck, and we'll check in on Tuesday. Send me questions. I'll send you, as you have seen, I'm bombarded you with lots of stuff. You probably won't have time to go through everything that I've sent you, but check. Do random checks and see, this question looks interesting. Try it, and I don't think you will be able to go through all of them, but if you have time, check some of those questions in last year's assignments. check some of the other PDFs. The more I find from other lecturers and e-tutors, the more I send through. If you're on Telegram, sometimes they share documents there as well. So yeah, but the more I get, the more I send you. But I will then look for the one that I know I have somewhere with formulas and the tables, that you nearly have all of that in one package. Okay. Have a good one, and then we will see on Tuesday.
Cool. Thanks, John. Very much.